Kia ora, I'm your Syrian Faye, Becoming Healthy, and I broke my wrist recently, so I've been doing a lot of tapping at home as well as suggesting it to clients before I broke my wrist, and I just thought I would maybe make a little video, basic guide on how to do EFT or tapping at home. I have got a 2-page guide that I will link in below as a PDF for you to use as well. But I just thought it's quite useful sometimes to do a tap along and have it explained. There are loads of tap along EFT videos on YouTube already. Some of my favourites, I have to say, are Brad Yates, Claudia Schiffer. There's also Mary Ayres. But there are loads out there, so you can find one that you enjoy for sure. If you don't like the first one, keep searching because there's loads of topics and lots of people do it. Basically, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's a combination of talk therapies and a tapping or acupressure therapy that helps clear blocks from the system. It has had quite a bit of research done on it and is shown to be really effective for trauma, addictions, pain, in fact, all sorts of issues that you're going through, either mental, emotional, or physical. How it works is as you're tapping, which I'll show you in a minute points, but they tap on the end points of meridian lines. That combination of that tapping helps calm a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is our emotional response center. And in doing that, it helps calm the whole body, because when we experience something traumatic, stressful, painful, we actually don't have time to process what's going on fully, because our body goes straight into our fight, flight, or freeze way of being. It just wants to respond with all that adrenaline. And so we don't get time to process some of those emotions that come up. So by talking about some of these issues, or the events that have caused our problems, or the pain that we're going through, or the stress, and tapping on these points, it helps calm the amygdala and helps us to process some of those things. And by processing it, we actually take away some of the triggering points from those actions. Now, it all sounds quite complicated, but it's actually a really easy technique, and it's one of my favorites because you can do it at home quite effectively, and it really does work. In saying that, please keep your health and safety in mind. This is just a basic guide for tapping at home on minor issues. If you have some long-standing traumatic issues in your life, I suggest you go and speak to someone, maybe see a professional. There's loads of professional EFT practitioners who can guide you through it, or some other kind of therapy. So if, as you're tapping, strong emotions or sensations come up, please take a break. Let it rest. You can come back to it and see if it's any better, but ultimately maybe you need to see a medical professional. So EFT was devised by someone called Gary Craig. He had been studying under a person who was combining his knowledge of Chinese medicine and talk therapy, and it had really effective results. But Gary Craig thought, well, actually, it doesn't need to be maybe a complicated algorithm like the other person was doing, and maybe it can just be an easy sequence. So he has devised this basic sequence that I'm going to show you now, tapping through certain points on the body as you're speaking. So I'm just going to show you the points first and go through them. So the first one we always start with is the karate chop point. So it relates to the small intestines, if you're linking it to the Chinese meridian points, and I have got that in the 2-page guide. And this is where we start all of our tapping, and we do a setup sort of statement on here, which I'll go through in a minute, but we start on the karate chop point. So just that little bit of your hand will do a karate chop. From there, I move to the eyebrow. Some people start on the head. It doesn't matter the order of the tapping, and it doesn't actually matter if you do points either. It can be just as effective on one point as all of the points, and that's something to keep in mind as well. So anyway, I start on the eyebrow point, so it's kind of at the end of your eyebrow, just using 1 or 2 fingers. And they usually say tap about 7 or 8 times, but actually when you put the talk element into it, you'll just naturally be tapping that amount of time, so you don't need to count as such. From there, we go to the side of the eye. So it's kind of on your temple, like not too far back, but close to the eye, but in that temple point. And then it's under the eye, so it's actually on, sort of you can feel your eye socket, just in there gently. This one relates to the stomach, the end point from the meridian for the stomach. Then we're going to go in the Cupid's bow, so that little dent that you have underneath your nose, I'm going to tap here. I'm just going to tap like this so you can still see my mouth, but you can tap that way, but just so that you can see my mouth still speaking. And then the next one is underneath the mouth or on the chin. So just tapping here. You can use one hand as I am, due to my broken one, or you can actually tap, both sides with both hands if you want to. The next point's on the collarbone. So if you feel your collarbone, and then it's just kind of sitting above your collarbone. So I can only do one of this. Some people do two hands on either side, or some people just tap that whole kind of area, getting in there. I've seen people do it with their fist. I tend to just get into that just on top of the collarbone. The next one is under the arm. Now, for ladies, it's fairly easy. It's kind of on your brow line. For men, it would be in line with your nipples. And we just tap here. You can tap under the opposite arm, or you can tap under here. And so that's under the arm. And then the last one is on the top of the head. So there are all the basic points that you need when you're going through. But there is a certain sequence. So what we do with EFT is, first of all, we think of the issue we want to tap on. For this example, I'm just going to use one that's maybe come up for a lot of you with New Year's resolutions, and maybe you've set a New Year's resolution and you're finding it hard to maintain that. So if you think about this new habit that you're forming, and if you think on a scale from 1 to 10 as to how hard that is, I guess would be the easiest way. So if it's very hard to maintain this habit, you're maybe at a 10. If it's really easy to maintain the habit, you'd be at a 0, 1. So if you give yourself a rating, think, yeah, this new habit is hard to form. So if that's very true for you, start at the 9 or a 10 rating. If it's not very true for you, you'll be down the other way. And then what we do is, using that, we do a setup statement. So we've got our number and we jot that down so that we can keep it in mind. And the reason we do that is because sometimes things can drop so suddenly that we think, oh, it mustn't have been that big an issue to start with, but actually it's the EFT's being that effective. So we get our issue that we're dealing with, which for this one is forming new habit. That's hard. And we're going to use it as our setup statement. Now, the setup statement usually states the issue, and then it does almost like a balancing statement. So it says, even though I'm finding it hard to form this new habit, I love and accept myself, is a usual one that goes with EFT. If you find that really hard to say, you can use any positive statement that kind of balances out your negative one, so to speak. So it could be, even though I'm finding this new habit really hard to maintain, the sun's shining. Even though I'm finding this new habit really hard to maintain, I still have my health and fitness. Even though I am finding it really hard to maintain this new habit, I have a loving family around me. It could be anything, just to kind of balance out. So it's stating the issue, but at the same time acknowledging it's not, the be all and end all. There's other good things happening. So I'm going to use the love and accept myself for this example, but please use your own language if you find that you can't say love and accept yourself and really believe. So we're going to tap on the karate point, and we usually repeat it 3 times. So even though, and you can just tap along with me, repeat after me. So even though I'm finding it really hard to maintain this new habit, I love and accept myself. And for a second time, even though I'm finding it really hard to maintain this new habit, I love and accept myself and how I feel. Even though I'm finding it really hard to maintain this new habit, I love and accept myself and how I feel and anyone else who may be involved. So that's our setup statement. Now we're going to go through the points. So we're going to start on the eyebrow point. And what we're going to do is use a reminder statement just from our setup statement. So it's really hard to maintain this new habit. Side of the eye, I'm finding it really hard to maintain this new habit. Under the eye, it's so hard to keep this new habit going. Under the nose, I'm really finding it a challenge to maintain this new habit. Under the chin, why does it have to be so hard? And on the collarbone, finding it really hard to maintain this new habit. Under the arm, all these challenges to maintaining this new habit. And on the top of the head, it's so frustrating that I can't just maintain this new habit. And so that's one round. Take a deep breath and let it out. And then just ask yourself again that question. It's really hard to maintain this new habit, and see where you are from that on that 0 to 10 scale. You may find that you've come down, so it doesn't feel as hard to maintain this new habit. You may find that you've gone up a bit, and you may also find that you've just stayed the same. And all of those responses are completely acceptable, completely normal. It's just how your body's processing it at the start. So that's one round. And normally what we would do is do a few rounds just to clear out all those things before we start putting in any positive statements. And a lot of people ask me, why focus on the negative? And it's not really just focusing on the negative, it's just acknowledging the truth of our situation at the moment. And I liken it to, when you go garden, you don't just go and plant all the seeds in the garden. You actually spend some time just clearing the weeds, acknowledging that there's weeds there, and clearing away space for all the seeds to go so that they can grow. And it's a bit like that with EFT. We've got to acknowledge the stuff that's going on for us, the horrible, grimy, gritty, sticky, icky stuff that's happening for us to clear a space to let that good stuff in. Because if we keep pushing down all the other stuff and pretending that it's not there, it's still going to come up and surface, as you've probably already experienced. So we'll just go through one more round to have a go. This time I'm not going to do the setup point for the second round. I'm just going to go through. So it seems so hard to maintain this new habit. Side of the eye. I'm finding it so frustrating. Under the eye. This new habit's just too hard to stick to. Under the nose. I don't think I can do it. Under the chin. It's just too hard. Collarbone. This new habit's just too hard. I don't think I can do it. Under the arm. It's just too hard. You can't make me do it. Top of the head. It's too hard to maintain this new habit. And so I'm going to continue on with some more positive kind of comments just to let you go. You can either keep repeating what we've done, or you can add in your own words, because the more you have your language in it, the more effective it'll be. So, eyebrow, this new habit is so difficult. I just don't think it's worth doing. But what if it's actually not about the new habit? Under the eye. What if it's actually about letting go of those old habits? Under the nose. What if that's the hard bit? Letting go of the old habit. Chin. Maybe if I think more positively about the new habit. and realize that it's letting go of the old habit that's causing the problem. Collarbone, I can maintain that new habit a little bit easier. Under the arm, maybe I can maintain this new habit easier. Top of the head, maybe it's possible to maintain this new habit and let go of the old one. It's making me stuck. Take a deep breath and out. And then just check in with your rating, 0 to 10, and see where you are now with that statement of it's too hard to form this new habit, and see if it's shifted. So that's a basic, hopefully, guide to EFT. Please leave me some comments if you feel like I've missed something out. Otherwise, play, experiment, use your own words where possible, and I hope that you found this useful. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.